We are looking forward to having you with us here during this time as well. And your phone calls at 800-245-3688. That's 1-800-245-3688. We are working on some technical issues to get Lisa Anderson on the phone with me here, and we'll have a great conversation about the ministry of Focus on the Family, so crucial to our listeners here at WRGN. The number for you to call, 800-245-3688. We're working towards our goal here on Share-A-Thon. We are now 45% of the way to our goal, and we're about the halfway mark as well. That means we got some work to do, and we hope that you'll give us a call at 800-245-3688. That's 800-245-3688. And we want to welcome Lisa Anderson from Focus on the Family and the Boundless Show. It's good to talk to you again, Lisa. How are you?
Well, it is always so great to be here. I am doing well.
All right, we don't have audio from Lisa. There we go. Let's try it again.
Oh, perfect. I am doing well, Tim. It is so good to see you and hear from you.
It is good to talk to you again. In fact, the last time I spoke to you, you were house sitting at a beautiful home in Colorado. You remember that?
Okay, I am actually back in that same place. So how weird is that? It's like my second home. So this very nice silk tree behind me here is not mine. So I can't take it for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it is great to have you back. Now, do you spend your time like house to house sitting? Is that your new job?
No, actually, no. These are just a couple friends who happen to travel more than they are around. Okay. So I'm one of their go-to people.
That is awesome. It's a great thing to do. You almost get these little mini vacations, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I do have the responsibility for one cat, but she is a sweetheart, and so she's worth the price of being able to hang here. Their house overlooks Garden of the Gods for anyone who's been to Colorado Springs, where I am right now. So overall, not a bad gig.
No, not a bad gig at all. Make sure you keep that silk plant alive behind you as well.
I will try.
Well, you have been ministering for a long time with Focus on the Family on the Boundless Show to 20s and 30s and 40-year-olds. And as you have been ministering with Focus on the Family through this, you have actually probably gotten to see a lot of them move on to the next stage of life, haven't you?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Tim, I would say I've moved through several stages. When I started with Boundless, I actually was a young adult, and now I try to be that fun older aunt who's telling them all the things of like, yeah, here's what I did, and so I would not recommend. So do this differently. So it's kind of fun to be in this spot and be able to be a cautionary tale. But yeah, as we walk through young adults through their 20s into their 30s and beyond, we're helping them navigate relationships as well as their faith, as well as cultural issues that they come into contact with. Certainly big stuff there. And then just relationships like with their parents as now adults and all the things. So it's been a real privilege. And we've seen, obviously, through the culture, some things change, some things shift, some things become more important. So that's been helpful for us to keep tabs on as well.
Well, as you are keeping tabs and really keeping your finger on the pulse of what's happening in society, what are you seeing as far as young people are concerned?
Sure. Well, it's pretty varied. I mean, so now if you think of where young adults are today and what we're seeing in the news and beyond, I would say, for example, and this is no real surprise to a lot of people, especially post-COVID, we are seeing the rise of mental health issues, mental health concerns. So, 15 years ago, we weren't talking about depression, anxiety, a lot of that nearly at the rates that we are now among young adults. And I think with the rise of digital play, digital addiction, quite frankly, and kind of that turning inward towards ourselves, it's really for us as Christians to say we need to do this differently, because this isn't the way of the church. It's not the way of the body of Christ. We're meant for relationship. So that's something we really lean into. Also, one other example is just straight up the way we date nowadays. Boundless was founded in 1998. People actually still looked each other in the eye back then. The internet was relatively young. But with the rise of dating apps, also back then, we were coming off of what's often been called the purity culture, courtship culture. So now it's kind of open season on dating. So we're trying to say, okay, maybe it's not courtship, maybe it's not the bad that you inherited from that era, but we're still talking about biblical dating and doing it in a way that honors God and is good for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, we so appreciate the fact that Focus on the Family does this in a way that honors God, that also brings us maybe, and I appreciate your honesty in this as well as the older aunt. Maybe that we can tell our younger people as they're coming up our own mistakes, and that can be really helpful, can it?
Oh, it absolutely can, because if there's one thing that millennials and Gen Z value, it is authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea that, yeah, you know what, I don't have everything all together. I certainly haven't made every choice perfectly, but here is, and this is a great opportunity for us, here is a God who brings beauty from ashes,
Mm-hmm.
who is a redemptive God, who has a story that is way beyond ours, who actually cares about us and can do something about all the stuff in our life that we think is just going off the rails.
Right.
So it gives us the opportunity to say, man, in our imperfection, the grace that God has to offer is something that's available to all of us, and it actually will make a difference.
As we share these things with our listeners through programs like Focus on the Family, as well as the Boundless Show, I know that they value it. And we know that by the phone calls that we get, by the messages that we get in emails about how much that means to them. And that is why, as we come into this Share-A-Thon time, as we let our listeners know what the needs of the station are, that we can know with confidence that we're making an impact in our community here in northeastern Pennsylvania, just as Focus on the Family is making an impact, as Boundless is making an impact, not just here in northeastern Pennsylvania, but worldwide. If you know that WRGN has made a difference in your life, in giving you the resources that you need for your teens, for your young adults, as they move through each of the stages, I would encourage you, give us a call right now, 800-245-3688. We talk about it here, Lisa, in terms of plateaus. I know that you're like up at the top of the mountain there in the Garden of the Gods area, but we talk about the plateaus because as you're climbing a mountain, you take these pause spots where you take a breather, celebrate how far you've come, but look forward to how far you have to go. And we are now $173 away from that next plateau. So if you were thinking, I would love to do more, but where I'm at right now, I can do $15 a month. That's $180 over the course of the year. That monthly $15 gift will put us through to that next plateau. We'll take a slight breather and we'll keep moving towards the top. 800-245-3688. That's 800-245-3688. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, Lisa, to talk with us and to have this conversation about our young people, about where they're at. As we have moved through each of these stages ourselves, and you can tell by looking at me that I'm well past even the older uncle stage. I'm really more now into the grandpa stage. But it is important for us to understand the changing that has been happening in the culture, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is so important. And it's funny you even refer to yourself, as the older Tim, because, as young adults are talking about cultural issues, I think what we often downplay is the value of other generations in their lives. And I think it is, again, you may say like, oh, anyone listening, well, I grew up in the 60s so they're not going to understand me. The same stuff comes around over and over again.
Right.
It's challenges with, why am I here? What's my purpose? Does anyone love me? Does my family care that I'm around? All those same things. And, we're obviously dealing with whether it's rates of, around religion, the ability to speak in the public square. Certainly anything around gender and sexuality is constant in our feeds.
Right.
We're just having to bring biblical truth to bear on this, because otherwise it's a free for all for what is true, what's my truth? A lot of people are trying to state that. And we're trying to say, you know what? The good news is there actually is a plumb line. There's something that's been determined. It's in the Word of God. And let us show you exactly what that means and how that can give you the freedom to move forward into maturity.
Amen. Well, I do want to clarify one point. I grew up in the 70s, not the 60s, Lisa. I know I may look like I grew up in the 60s, but bell bottoms, though, I understand are making a comeback, which is crazy to me. It was one style from the 70s that should not have come back. But we are trying to help those who are across the generations to understand what's happening with the younger generation. One of the things that I have noticed, though, is that the younger generation is looking to the older generation because the older generation does still have things to offer, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, I usually love when I come on radio programs and digital platforms like yours, Tim, to kind of give a hard time to boomers and even some of the older Xers, because I'm constantly telling my listeners, hey, go out, find a mentor, ask people in your church, whether it's join an intergenerational Bible study, or you don't know how to write a budget, your finances are a train wreck, go ask someone in your church how to do this. And they're coming back to me saying, well, Lisa, I tried, but everyone's kind of rejecting me. They're saying they don't have anything to offer, or they don't have time, or they're intimidated, or I wouldn't understand them. And so I'm saying, man, if you're out there, I don't care if you're an empty nester, if you're still in the workforce, whatever you're doing, you have something to offer. And young adults, you know, they can't always go to their parents, because a lot of millennials and Gen Z either, you know, grew up without a dad, they're in broken homes, or now they're away from their family of origin because of college or a job. And they just need someone to look them in the eye and say, hey, let me ask you a few questions, see how you're doing, see where you are, and what I could teach you.
That is so great, because the cross-generational thing that has like kind of fell apart for a while is coming back. And we need to take advantage of that, because we always, according to the scriptures, as gray-haired people, have something to instruct to the next generation. In fact, we are called to do it in the book of Timothy and other places in the scripture, where God says, this is your responsibility now. And so we hope that you, if you're listening and you're in that maybe older stage, that you will take seriously the responsibility that God has given us in scriptures. The number to call if you want to be a part of Share-A-Thon because you are impacted by the ministry of WRGN, 800-245-3688. That's 800-245-3688. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be back in just a minute with Lisa Anderson. I've got some music right now for you to go to the phones by, because I've noticed that, Lisa, as the phones are ringing, I mean, as we're talking, the phones are not ringing. And so we want to get those phones ringing. 800-245-3688, giving you a chance to go to your phone. Letting go. All right. Now, can you still hear me, Lisa?
I can, yep.
Okay. We're going to hear that music in the background unless I do that. Nope, that's not going to go. There we go. What's that?
We're not hearing anything. You're good.
Okay. You can still hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Just making sure we have the way we have to convolutedly do this makes it a little more interesting. So we are still streaming online, but we're not on the air here in the station. And so I'll bring that back on once we come out of the song. But we know that if we do the way we do without taking a break to go into some music, that sometimes the phone doesn't ring because they don't want to miss the conversation with you.
Yeah.
So as we come into the next segment, I want to talk about the Boundless Show itself and what you guys do, but also some of the resources that are available from Focus on the Family. We are Focus on the Family twice a day here on WRGN, in the morning and in the evening. And so we know and value the ministry of Focus on the Family here. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about that. But then I wanted, in this off-air time, for our listeners to be able to get a better feel for you and where you're at now in your ministry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been pretty cool just to see how God, we celebrated 25 years of Boundless, what's now coming up on 2 years ago. And so 27, I mean, like I said, 1998 is when Boundless started as an entirely digital ministry, if you can believe it, Tim, when, like I said, we were just 4 years off of most people using the internet. And started the podcast back in 2008. We've been one of the longest running Christian podcasts out there. So that's been really, really fun. And we're kind of doing all the things. In fact, right now, something exciting that your listeners might be interested in is we're getting ready tomorrow to film an Advent devotional series that we're going to make available through Boundless. So anyone that wants to enter Advent with just something reflective and just great teaching, we will have that available in the beginning of November. So go to boundless.org and you can learn more about that. But that's just our attempt to say, hey, we want to make this meaningful.
Okay. And so how's that going to be available as a video?
Yeah, it's actually going to be a 4-week video devotional. And then everyone will get a downloadable as well. That is a worksheet that they can do throughout the week. And it's going to have additional scriptures. It's going to have some reflection questions. It'll have maybe some action items for them to do to apply the teaching throughout the week. So really great. So for personal study, they could do it with a friend or with their spouse, whatever that looks like. So at Boundless, it'll be a text campaign.
Okay.
We'll probably also make it available via email, but folks will be able to get more info on that at Boundless.
Oh, that is awesome. I love it. All right. We got about 10 seconds. So we're coming out of the music. Music from Lauren Daigle and Trust in You. 800-245-3688. The number to call to be a part of our Share-A-Thon. We've been talking with Lisa Anderson from the Boundless Show, brought to us through Focus on the Family. But actually, Boundless kind of started on its own, didn't it, Lisa? And then kind of got folded into Focus on the Family?
Well, it started as a ministry of Focus on the Family, but interestingly enough, Tim,
not over the air, though.
Yeah, it wasn't on the air.
Right,
It started out as a worldview ministry for college students through Focus. And it was a digital webzine, if anyone remembers what those were back then. And then we added a group blog. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We added a group blog and then added the show in January of 2008. And so we are coming up on, we are not too far short of 1,000 episodes of the Boundless Show, believe it or not, as a weekly show. I think I've interviewed over 700 guests total. It might even be more than that. And I mean, people ask me, they say, how in the world do you still do this? And I think to myself, surely we've said everything there is to say about dating or about, all the things. And then I sit down with a guest and I learn something new. And I'm like, this is so amazing. It's just great how God has really shown up in all the things to really walk us through, especially as the decades have changed.
Yeah. And that I think is part of it, is that while the truths remain the same, the way that people are interacting with the truths may be a little different now, especially when we, as you referred to earlier, hear that phrase, my truth, when really we need to be talking about God's truth, because that is the unchangeable. What they're really talking about is my perspective more than my truth, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what makes it so tricky. But what's so neat is, as I said, we started out primarily with college students. And then as they finished college and aged into their 20s, then they started coming up with questions about like, okay, well, now I'm in the workforce. What do I do with all of that?
Right.
And now I'm getting challenged. Even now we're having young adults write into us saying, my boss is requiring me to use pronouns. My workplace is requiring me to do, whether it's DEI or something similar.
Right.
So they're really like wrestling with stuff like this. And that's why it's so great, because now as they're in their 20s, a lot are single because they're that young, but many are engaged or young marrieds. And so it's an opportunity for them generationally to learn from each other and to experience growth in that way.
That growth is amazing to see happen. And you have actually, as you talk about the 700 different people that you have interviewed, you have kind of a rotating panel of guests that come on, and people that we may hear from once or twice and never hear from again. How do you decide who you're going to bring on? Is it based on the topics that you're talking about?
Yeah, it's so funny you asked that. It's really a unique format in that it's kind of a magazine. So
Mhm.
at about an hour show each week, our first segment is what we call our roundtable, and
Mhm.
it's me facilitating a conversation with young adults.
Mhm.
So this is their opportunity to weigh in as peers and just maybe share some frustrations, some of the things they're walking through, some of the questions they have. So it's just a fun, very organic discussion on that front.
Mhm.
Then that second segment is where I pull in an expert. So that could be an author, it could be a theologian, some kind of newsmaker. And that's really a mentory segment to give advice, to kind of put stuff out there that people may not have thought of. And then that last segment's a short segment. We call it our inbox, and it's literally answering a listener question. So depending on whether it's a theological question or a relationship question, it might be about something mental health related or
Right.
addiction. We'll bring in, it's either myself or a licensed professional counselor. It might be a pastor. And we really try to give some good thought to answering a question in a way that's both helpful and practical for the person who asks it.
I always appreciate the Boundless Show. I'm well past the age of those that are supposed to be listening, but I always appreciate what you bring and the variety in the guests and the topics that you cover, because it is important for us, even as older saints, to know what's happening today, to keep our finger on the pulse, as it were, of what is going on. And we appreciate the work that is being done through Focus on the Family on this. Now, Focus on the Family also has a lot of resources available for our listeners. I want to come back with you because I want to talk about what some of those resources are, but I want to give our listeners a chance to call because we've seen some progress here and want to let you know what's happening there as well. We heard from a listener in Wilkes-Barre renewing his faith promise. Charlie calling in. Thank you so much. He says, love WRGN. I have been listening since WRGN went on the air. That was back in 1984. And yes, I was here then too. So very glad to have Charlie with us as a giver and just appreciate you and the giving that you have done, because that gift, a $1,200 gift, brought us through the next plateau. So it is time to do a little praising here on WRGN. Yes, those were fireworks you heard, Lisa. We got a little celebration here as we go through the $89,000 mark. And we are now just $973 away from the $90,000 mark. You can help us get there with your phone call, 800-245-3688. We've got special guest Lisa Anderson with us from the Boundless Show. She's going to be back with us here in just a minute, but I want to give you an opportunity to give us a call, 800-245-3688. All right. Good job.
I think I just learned something new.
What's that?
The pronunciation of Wilkes-Barre, is it?
Wilkes-Barre.
Barry.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Well, they actually there's an ongoing debate on that. There are those that pronounce it Wilkes-Barre, like a strawberry. In fact, they have a T-shirt that has the three different pronunciations on it. One with a strawberry on it. The other is Wilkes-Barre with a little bear on it, and then Wilkes-Barre, which is actually the proper pronunciation. It's the put together of two people's names who actually have never been to Wilkes-Barre. John Wilkes and Isaac Barry. They were both parliamentarians over in England. And of course, you know, all the settlers came here and they named things like New England or New York or, you know, all of those things. And so they named the town of Wilkes-Barre after those two parliamentarians over in England, John Wilkes and Isaac Barry. So,
okay.
Yeah.
This is so informative for me.
Now,
this is like your equivalent of what we do in Colorado, where we take all of the Native American names
Right.
and everything, we completely destroy them by or anything Hispanic. So we have, instead of Buena Vista, which is, you would think grammatically correct,
Right.
we say Buena Vista.
Oh,
We have so it's basically, if there's anything that's moderately sounds like it should be correct in an ethnic context, we're just going to destroy it. And then that'll be the correct pronunciation for Colorado.
Forever. That's right. We actually have a similar thing here because this area also, a lot of the Native American names, we have Wapwallapin, we have Tunkhannock, which is actually Tunkahanock, if you'd say it properly, all those different things that we wind up having corrupted somehow, and it just kind of carries through.
That's great.
Yeah, and it is fun because as you get people that come from out of the area, and then they try to pronounce it, and then we try to correct them, and when we discover that it wasn't right in the first place. So it is the way it goes. All right, we've got about 20 seconds coming out of this song, and we'll continue on with conversation about some of the resources from Focus on the Family. If you can even share a website, and I know there are some things that are available. Okay, here we go. Well, I hope that you have been enjoying our conversation with Lisa Anderson from Focus on the Family. You hear her every weekend on The Boundless Show here on WRGN. And so glad that you've been able to take the time to be with us this evening, or afternoon, I guess it is in Colorado, right?
Still afternoon for the most part, but the days are getting darker, Tim, and I don't like it.
I know the sun is gone here already. And so as we watch the sun fall earlier and earlier and earlier and rise later and later and later, we know that those winter months are upon us, the time that we spend much more time indoors than out of doors. But that also does mean that we've got a little more time for reading. We've got a little more time for some of the resources that may be available to us, either here at the Good News Library at the WRGN studios or through places like Focus on the Family. And one of the things that we love to do is remind our listeners of the resources that WRGN brings through the ministry of Focus on the Family. What are some of the things that are available to our listeners?
Yeah, it's pretty wild because, again, you used to think of resources as only like a book or a broadcast. We churned out for years and years at Focus. It was cassette tapes, then it was CDs, then, but
now it's the digital downloads.
I know, yeah. So we're doing so much in different spaces. So I'll maybe highlight 3 different types of resources we have. One is just straight up through our Focus on the Family store. So anyone that goes to focusonthefamily.com and clicks on the store button, the little cart, they're going to find all of the latest, whether it's books or digital downloads that we have accessed by virtue of interviewing those authors, those influencers. And it's kind of fun for us to be able to kind of keep our ears and eyes out for what's new, what's being said, we found some of the greatest new authors through doing that work and then being able to feature them on places like The Boundless Show.
Right.
So that's one place, just straight up in our store. Folks can even peruse. In fact, if you search young adults, you're going to see all the things we have there for the folks that we're talking about. And with Christmas coming up, man, it's a great time to just get into that sphere. But also some of the other things, Tim, like trainings and curriculums. We just released Marriage 911, which makes that's available now to churches who want to help crisis marriages in their own churches and really put the love of Jesus on maybe what's a difficult situation for couples. And it gives them the training and the resources that they need to be that intermediary. And then for some reason, if more care is needed, we have Hope Restored. I'm sure some other Focus folks have talked about that. It's something that I love personally because this is going to sound so weird, Tim, but as a single woman, I actually attended Hope Restored.
Really?
I went because my boss, Greg Smalley, made me go because he wanted me to know what it was about. And I actually sat, Hope Restored is for couples who are in crisis. Many of them have filed divorce papers. They have determined that their marriage is not salvageable. And we're saying, give us one more chance. Give us a chance. Go to this 4-day intensive. We want to see if you're willing to say that God can do a miracle in your marriage. We want to help you get there. And so I sat for a week with 5 couples on a couch, a horseshoe-shaped couch, and it was so amazing. I said, Tim, every unmarried person should go through Hope Restored because it helps you figure out the stuff on the front end that you can get healthy in yourself as an individual that will keep you from being on that couch in the future.
Mm.
So it's just such a valuable resource, and really caring hearts and trained professional therapists who help couples get there. So I love that as well.
That is
And then
amazing.
some of the new things we have coming up too. You know, we have Truth
Mhm.
Rising, our new documentary. That's kind of our part 2 of the Truth Project for folks who are familiar with that. And, you know, sneak peek, I'm assuming folks like John Fuller and other folks that you've talked to told you about our Adventures in Odyssey animation that's coming out. So sneak peek, we are releasing a trailer for that. We are hoping that the front end of next summer, that will release in theaters. And so there will be a lot of excitement around that.
Yeah, John was telling me about that when I talked to him yesterday, and I am so excited about that. I shared it with my daughter, my youngest daughter, who is now in her mid-20s and has 2 kids of her own, but was a huge Adventures in Odyssey fan, and looking forward to it as well. It's just so exciting to see the work that continues at Focus on the Family. And of course, the idea that if you have a desperate need right now and need to make a phone call to talk to someone, Focus on the Family is there for that as well, right?
Oh, that is so true. I mean, I don't know of many ministries that actually employ a full-time call center and counseling team to address needs right as they come in.
Hmm.
So anyone who wants to reach out about anything, it doesn't even have to be a crisis marriage. It could be just something in your own personal life that you're struggling with. We have got a team of counselors who will take your call. All you have to do is call Focus on the Family, 1-800, the letter A and the word family, or go to our website. A counselor will be there with a complimentary consultation. And then what's especially cool about it, Tim, is that then we have an entire network of counselors around the country, including for your listeners in your area, who can provide continued care as folks maybe get some direction from the Focus counselor. Then they can say, okay, we'd recommend this, and it can just set you on the path towards healing.
And this is why we carry Focus on the Family twice a day here on WRGN, because we know what an impact that can make, and that valuable, really invaluable resource that we can pass on to you. And that's why we continue to do what we do here at WRGN. If you want to give us a call right now, 800-245-3688. That's 800-245-3688. We've been making progress even as we speak here with Lisa Anderson. We have heard from Wendy in Hanover Township, or Cindy, I'm sorry, in Hanover Township, gift of $300, and that is an insta gift. Thank you so much, renewing her support of WRGN. Wendy calling in also from Hanover Township, renewing her support of WRGN with a monthly gift, a faith promise of $420. So thank you to each of you who have helped us now just get $253 away from that $90,000 mark, where we can move mountains and have a big praise party. Well, we're going to come back at least one more time here with Lisa Anderson, if we can, Lisa, because I would like to give you a chance to challenge our listeners as well. Right now, we've got music from Jordan Merritt. As you get to your phone, 800-236-88. All right. You're doing a great job. I really appreciate you taking the time with us today, Lisa.
Oh, absolutely.
I have had the joy of actually interviewing Lisa a couple of times about different topics. I think the last time we talked, we were talking about cell phones and cell phones in high schools and things like that. And that is really, I know, a hot topic, even still, as it seems like all the states haven't figured that thing out yet, have they?
Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, have you had, do you know if people in your listening area have had them test in the schools, the cases for phones where they're doing drops and you can't have them in class now? And there are a lot of new technologies out there that are pretty cool.
Yeah. We have so many different school districts that are in our listening area. I don't know how they do it out in Colorado, but so many different school districts that are really just all over the place. It does not seem like there is a unified way to handle it yet.
Yeah. We definitely have some that are doing pilot programs where they're really, I mean, they're sensing, again, it is contributing to a lot of the downturn in mental, in anxiety and bullying, all of that. Like, we got to try something. And so there have been some pretty aggressive and innovative things that they're trying out here in Colorado. So hopefully elsewhere as well.
Well, the other thing that I find interesting too is that even adults are recognizing the difficulties right now. I know so many that are saying, you know what, I'm getting off. And I'm talking about 20 and 30 somethings. I'm getting off of social media because it is just consuming my time.
Yeah, it's hilarious. We had our whole intern class this summer, and so many of them were just off social altogether, including Instagram and TikTok.
Oh, wow.
And what's hilarious, Tim, is they were telling about their parents and grandparents, and they're like, I can't get them off of Facebook. Like, I'm telling my mom, like, stop sending me stuff from Facebook. You're addicted to Facebook. So it's maybe a little bit of shaming in the opposite direction now.
It really is, but I'm so glad to see that wake up that is happening because it is so easy. That whole doom scrolling thing can be a real challenge. All right, we've got about 30 seconds when we come back. If you want to give your final challenge, and again, Lisa, I can't thank you enough for your time today. I really appreciate it. All right.
Perfect.
That's music from Jordan Merritt here. A song called Seasons here on WRGN Share-A-Thon. Well, we're in the fall season, and I have to ask you one more question before we let you go, Lisa, because we have been asking all of the people that we talk to are this or that question. Are you team apple or team pumpkin?
Oh, my goodness. You know what? I think I'm going to say team apple.
Yay!
Is that a good team to be on?
Good team to be on.
The right answer.
That's right.
Only because I'm going to tell you why. And this is because I am such a lover of summer that the minute I start hearing about the pumpkin spice latte, I am just triggered and I just hate everything about it.
That's right.
So I'm like, when people start celebrating fall at the end of August, I'm like, stop it.
That's
it
right.
is not your time.
That's exactly right. And apples are not seasonal. You can get them all year long.
There's so many varieties. I am going to give people fall right now.
Okay.
The leaves are actually changing. It's amazing. Now is your time, but it is not August and it's not even the front end of September. So stop it, everyone.
Right there with you, Lisa. Thank you so much. Again,
we'll do a campaign next year.
Yes, exactly right. I'll be right there with you. We thank you again for your time. Appreciate your ministry with Focus on the Family with the Boundless Show, and encourage you, take advantage of the resources that we have with Focus on the Family. Again, thank you, Lisa. Any final words for our listeners?
I would just say anyone that loves Focus for any reason, everyone has their favorite things or their memories about Focus, their favorite broadcasts, whatever. But from my perspective with young adults, I would love folks to remember that Focus on the Family, we need to be training up what is not just the next generation, but really millennials and younger are now more than 50% of the population. So you have the opportunity, anyone who's listening, whether you're a young adult or someone further along the road, to really speak into this generation and to speak up for truth. Parents who have maybe struggle with their adult children is the number one reason people call into our counseling center, Tim, at Focus on the Family. So we want to find ways to really play into that, to give them hope for all the things that they're facing. And you guys are boots on the ground doing that. And we are so grateful for your partnership in this way.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa. Again, have a great afternoon. Enjoy sunset in the Garden of the Gods.
I will do it. Thanks again.
Lisa Anderson joined